Ah, the future! Things are looking quite bright for the future. Literally. Yeah, we're actually heading into Fallout. While the current geopolitical state of the world is interesting right now, things can get a whole heck of a lot interesting as the cycle of history is starting to repeat itself again. But the question is, though, during this new cycle of history, who will emerge on top? Which country is going to be the next future superpower? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. It's literally impossible. There are too many factors involved here. It's not like a scientific formula where you can put in a bunch of numbers and go beep boop beep boop beep boop and you get an answer. No, this is very complicated. Society is complicated. The world is complicated. Politics is extremely complicated. Well, there isn't a true answer, but we can make predictions. Let's do them right now. Now, what defines a country as powerful? In my opinion, I think there are 5 main areas. One being economy, one being the country's military, one being the cultural influence, the fourth being how good their geography is, and the fifth being how stable the country itself is. I'm going to be ranking this based on the year 2050, as it's a good midway. And also, I feel like shit's gonna get real at that point. I mean, the singularity is gonna happen. Robots are gonna take over. World War III is gonna happen. Bioweapon is gonna be released that kills all of humanity. So what are the potential candidates for the world's next superpower? Well, first of all, let's talk about the current superpower, being America. Now, people think that America will fall like the Roman Empire. But I don't think we've gotten to that point yet, because America isn't the Roman Empire yet. It's the Roman Republic. I believe that America will probably turn into a dictatorship this century. A civil war might break out, or something crazy might happen, and America will probably turn imperialistic even. Now, in my views, I don't think America will remain the only superpower in the world. I think the dollar will lose its value, but I do still think America will be number one, even in 2050. They will still be the most powerful country. But are there any other countries that could challenge America's supremacy? Well, yes. Mother Russia. Now, Russia has a collapsing population, but the government in Russia is pretty militaristic. There's a possibility that in the next couple of decades, Russia could militarize even more than it already is. And it could turn into a very strong superpower, both economically and militarily. However, Russia's population is still, getting old, so it's 50-50. What about China? China is another country that could challenge America's supremacy. China will probably shrink in all terms. China's population is also getting very old. They'll likely remain strong, but they'll stagnate, just like Japan did in the 90s. They'll remain strong, but I don't think they'll be as scary as people think they're going to turn out. They're probably going to underperform. Not saying that they can't, take over the world. I mean, they have 1 billion people plus, but still, I don't think that's going to happen. But China is not the only Asian country out there that could challenge America's supremacy. Japan, while also a declining nation, I think Japan is going to be underestimated this century. Because, okay, yes, Japan's birth rates are collapsing. Yes, their economy has stagnated for a long time. But keep in mind this, Japan has a history of being militaristic. There's a possibility, and a bunch of young, angry Japanese people, probably mainly men, could get enough of their government and could put in a regime that leads to a more extreme version of Japan, like we've seen in the past before. Also, keep in mind that Japan is very advanced when it comes to artificial intelligence, which will be the key defining factor this century as to who will be the next superpower. Another country that will 100% become a superpower is India. They have recently overtaken China as the biggest population in the world. Also, their economy has grown to extreme lengths, at an extreme pace, and they could even overtake China at one point. India has also recently been given access to the internet. India has had a big history with medicine and science and math, so they will definitely be a contender. A very shock candidate for the world's biggest superpower is Turkey. However, it shouldn't come to that much of a surprise. Turkey will definitely be a big contender for a superpower. First of all, their population has grown tremendously in the past couple of decades. I also feel like a strong Islamic state will emerge this century, as recently in the Middle East tensions have been rising, and also Islam has become the quickest growing religion, so they'll definitely need a super strong state. Turkey has also become militaristic, and they could even annex parts in the Middle East like northern Syria. I feel like a country like Saudi isn't as good of a contender as it's too western, but other contenders could be Iran, which have historically been extremely powerful, and even a country like Egypt could emerge powerful. In other parts of Europe, while I doubt Spain and Italy will become quote-unquote superpowers, they might start to become a bit more militaristic, especially now that it seems like Europe might be heading towards war. Also, both Spain and Italy have a really strong culture and really strong traditions that have been passed down generation through generation. France will definitely become more militaristic, as France is starting to actually rev up their army. Also, France is in very much control of their African territories, and they have ties to the EU, and are in charge of a lot of decisions in the EU, and are very important in the EU. Britain, I think, will be the opposite of France this century. I think they will probably collapse. I think they will probably deteriorate. We might be living in a time and age where Britain will hit its lowest point in a long time. Them leaving the EU might have been what set it on course. They might just want to become an isolationist country and just distance themselves from all the crazy stuff happening in Europe. They might still have a strong economy, but even that is in question with recent decisions by the government. But there's one country in Europe that I haven't discussed that could also become powerful. That being Germany. Now, the last time they did that, but there is actually a possibility that Germany could militarize again. A lot of extremism has been spewing in Germany, and the Germans call for a yearning, as they feel like they have been mistreated yet again. You also gotta remember that Germany is actually doing pretty good in certain areas like AI, and nothing beats German engineering. So it is a possibility that Germany could do well, there's a possibility that they might not do well. It's 50-50, it's up in the air. In other continents like Africa, Nigeria might be an emerging power. Kinda. In the year 2036, they'll have a population of 300 million. However, while they might have a big population, they're still probably a fair chunk away from being a superpower. I mean, come on, it's literally the desert, like, bruh. A country like Indonesia, which has a similar population, will probably fare better, as a lot of East Asian and Southeast Asian countries have good economies. A country like Mexico or a country like Brazil could also do well. They have big populations, and their cultural and linguistic influence can't be unmatched, as Mexico is the country with the most amount of Spanish speakers, and Brazil is the country with the most amount of Portuguese speakers, two of the most important and spoken languages in the world. Finally, let's talk about Canada, country where I'm from. Well, we will definitely be the world's biggest power, and we will take over the world. In reality, we'll probably follow a very similar suit to America this century. But yeah, no, everybody in the world is gonna drink maple syrup and watch Teletube. So yeah, if I had to predict the list of countries that will be the most powerful in 2050, here you go. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good list. But yeah, in my personal opinion, I think America will still be number one. But I think it will be contested a lot more by countries like India, Russia, China, and even countries like Turkey or Japan. I do believe a strong militaristic state will happen in the Middle East. I do believe America will probably turn into a dictatorship. I do believe that religion will probably become more prominent. the rest of this century in terms of geopolitics. So yeah, take these predictions with a grain of salt, and good night, motherfuckers.